Alright, hello once again, this is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College Application and Website Development, or AWD program, I am, and in particular I should say, for the AWD 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class, I am going through a series of video presentations that I'm creating for the textbook that will be used for this class for the fall 2019 semester. As you can see on the screen, the book is Pro ASP.NET MVC 5, an A-Press text by Adam Freeman. I'm in the middle of Chapter 7 of 27, and before we get going, one thing I do want to mention, alright, and that is, we're going to go into the preparing a database. We've gone through about approximately 15 to 20 pages of this chapter. All right, and I've already done 6 lectures. There very well could end up being close to 20 lectures for this chapter. Just want you to know that. Secondly, the other thing I want you to know quickly, you've heard me say this before, and that is that I am doing these recordings from my home. So if the acoustics sound a little bit different than they do normally, it's because normally I do them inside of Rankin. So the author says here on the bottom of page 168, I can already display simple views that contain details of the products, but I am displaying the test data that the mock repository returns. Before I implement a real repository, I need to set up a database and populate it with some data. I'm going to use SQL Server as the database, and I will access the database using the Entity Framework, or EF, which basically is a Microsoft database product. It's also known as an ORM framework, which I believe is Object Relational Manager, or Management. It presents the tables, columns, and rows of a relational database through regular C# objects. Alright, so the author mentions that although there are several tools that can be used for this, that he will be using the Entity Framework. And his rationale is, it is simple. Simple is a relative term. And easy to get up and working. The integration with Link is first rate, and it is good. Alright, creating the database. A nice feature of Visual Studio and SQL Server is the local DB feature, which basically allows you to create a database on your own machine. So as mentioned here, using this feature, you can skip the process of setting up a database while building the project and then deploying it on a full SQL Server instance. Most MVC applications are deployed to hosted environments that are run by professional administrators. So the local DB feature means that the database configuration can be left in the hands of DBAs. The local DB feature is installed automatically with Visual Studio Express 2013 for web, but you can also download it there, as you can see. The first step to create the database connection, or is to create the database connection in Visual Studio. Open the Server Explorer window, and click the Connect to Database button. In fact, let's see if we can do this. We'll view Server Explorer. Okay? I think that's what I would want. It looks like I'm still running from when I had this up and running before, so I'll stop the run. Alright, that's Test Explorer. We want to view Server Explorer. There we go. So open the Server Explorer window and click the Connect to Database button. It looks like a power cable with a green plus sign. Of course, I don't see that. There it is, Connect to Database. All right, you can see what comes up. You will see the Choose Data Source dialog. Select the Microsoft SQL Server option and click the Continue button. Visual Studio will remember the selection you made, so you will not see this window if you already created a database connection in another project. So, Microsoft SQL Server. And then click Continue. All right. Next, you will see the Add Connection dialog. Set the server name to, as you can see there, localDB/v11.0, which is a special name that indicates that you want to use the localDB feature. Check the Windows Authentication option, as shown right there, and set the database name to SportsScore. Copy. In fact, maybe we can do this. Or maybe not. So I'm going to move this over. I'm going to bring this up, but I'm going to collapse the size of this. All right, so Microsoft SQL Server Client. For the server name, putting in there what we were asked to put in. Authentication. See that it's a little bit different. Right now we've got the Windows Authentication, which is what we want. All right. And here it says connect to a database. Select or enter a database name. So this is supposed to be SportsStore. Click the OK button and Visual Studio should prompt you to create a new database. Click Yes to go ahead. A new item should appear in the Data Connections section of the Server Explorer window, which can be expanded to see the different parts of the database. You should see something similar, but the name of the connection will be different because it will include the local PC name. So we can click OK. I've done this in the past using other things. It says does not exist or you do not have permission to use it. Would you like to attempt to create it? Yes. And that should have it create up here then. There it is. SportsScore. SportsStore. All right, so it says we should be able to open it and see all these different folders. And there they are. Now, there's nothing in it yet. So if I click on tables, if I click on any of these, it's just going to, for lack of better words, almost go away. All right, so that's fine. So, as the author explained at the start of the chapter, the focus with the SportsStore application is to focus on the MVC framework development process. This means keeping everything else as simplistic as possible. The author says that he does not want to get into the topics of database design and the in-depth details of the entity framework beyond what has been demonstrated. With this in mind, the author says he is only going to have one table. This is not how a real e-commerce site would structure its data, but of course, but the important lesson is to learn about the repository pattern. So we're going to right mouse click on tables and choose add new table as shown there. Now you get the double view here. We've seen this before. On the top is more the bottom is well, the top is more GUI eyes, the bottom is more textual. All right. So what we are told to do then, you can create in either part. The author asks you to enter the SQL statement here and click the update button. So in other words, we want to put in this. Now, a couple things about this. You've heard this stuff before, but it's probably been a while. We're creating a new table. The table is named products. It has 5 fields. The first field is going to be our primary key, and it's an identity field, meaning it will automatically be incremented for us as we add more records. Second field is name. First field was an integer type, cannot be null. Second type is the name. It's a varchar or character type, and it also cannot be null. The next field is the description. You'll notice that the name can be up to 100 characters, the description up to 500 characters. Neither can be null. Then we have a category, which can be up to 50 characters and not null, and finally a price. It's a decimal. That 16.2 means 16 maximum digits with 2 after the decimal place. So it would be, the maximum would be 99, 999, 999, 999, 999.99. As it says, this statement should cause a table named products to be created. So I'm going to right mouse click on here and choose copy. Go back to here, remove all of this, replace it with what we just put in. Okay. There. Now, I'm a little weird about this stuff. I like stuff to line up. Why? Just because when I do it, I can look at it and make sure everything is basically looking the way that I want it to look. Not everybody agrees with this. In fact, most people probably don't agree with what I'm doing right there. All right. But like I said, to me, it makes total sense to do that. All right. So I want to click the update button, and it's preparing the script. It does all that work for me automatically, and I want to say to update the database. If you look down on the very bottom here, when you do this, if you get all check marks and you get a green thing up there, typically that means everything is cool. Now, if I do go back to here, I don't see anything. But if I click right here, if I click on the refresh button, there's my table. All right. So when you look right here, and I'm up to page 173, as the author says right here, we are going to come in and add the data to our database. I want to check my time. I may be way over already. No, I'm doing good. All right. Rather than you watching me key in all of this information, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to here. All right. We don't have to save this. All right. In fact, I think it's been saved for us. But I am going to right mouse click on here and choose, come on, show table data. And it brings this up. And there's nothing in there right now. All right, I don't fill in the product ID. The first record has got here kayak. The description, a boat for one person. And always double click here. There we go. The category is water sports. The price is $275. Now that's the first record. You'll notice it put the 1 in there for us. We have a total of 11 records. I'm going to put those in, but rather than you watch me type, I'm just going to put those in and then we will begin the next lesson. All right? So see you then.